Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerers Guild. Today on Weird Science, we are going to be talking about the theater of science and the placebo effect. Okay, so as I have mentioned before, I actually have designed a special group for this on Facebook called the Weird Science Lab. I will leave a link to that on the info button as well as in the description portion of the post. Anyways, for this episode, we are going to be talking about the theater of science and the placebo effect. Okay, so what is the theater of science? The theater of science is the ritual that takes place around any scientific operation. And that is a pretty broad term, but I'll give you a few examples. Anywhere from an operation, like a literal operation, as in a surgery, there is the theater of science. And in fact, there they call it the theater of operation. That takes place around any type of surgery, or anytime you were going to the doctor or Western medicine. That is the theater specifically of operation, but it is also the theater of science. Anytime we are using science, when a person operates a ham radio to pick up frequencies and hear voices from far away, yeah? This is the theater of science. When they use radar to divine where things are, what things are coming towards them, through the frequencies of the sonar, of the sounds bouncing off. And, well, I'm not sure exactly how all that works. I have a vague idea, a layman's idea of how radar and sonar and those things work. But that's exactly my point. To me, these things are almost magical. They are the theater of science because I have a vague idea of how they work, of how sonar bounces off and it's like echolocation, and how radar picks up different frequencies in the on the plane that's coming towards them, or the ship, or whatever is going on. We have a vague idea of these things, but it's a form of scientific divination. And with all of these things, there creates a belief in science. There is an aesthetic to it. And then there is the repetition as well, because this is constantly going on. This is constantly being reinforced. That when we use science, things happen. When we use science, it works. When we turn dials, twist knobs, push buttons, these have an effect. And that is where we are reaching forward with this idea of the theater of science. Now we're going to be getting into actual scientific principles with Weird Science, and those are even stronger. But there is this theater involved that needs to be taken into account anytime you are working with science. Just like there is a theater to ritual. There is a theater to any spellcraft. That law of aesthetics, the way that you want to make it flow, make it resonate with you. The same when we are working with Weird Science, but we want to get into that theater of science. It's why I have a psychedelic lab coat that I try to wear whenever I am doing Weird Science, and will be wearing on this playlist most of the time, because it fits into the aesthetic of the theater of science. Okay, so I said we're going to be talking about the placebo effect in here. And that is one of the areas where science has acknowledged this theater and its effect. Ironically, most of the time, when they discovered about the placebo effect, they tried to cancel it out, try to get it out of the way. But the placebo effect, they have done some studies on it, enough to find out how many people start getting better simply from the theater of operation and the theater of science. They are given a fake pill, a sugar pill, is the stereotype of what the person is given instead of the real cure. And a certain percentage of them get better. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's not all belief. Yeah? There is that belief imparts reality. And that's significant. It is especially important when we start talking about energies. And a lot of times with different times we're working with the theater of science, there's, like I said, turning of knobs, twisting of of dials, a lot of different things that are done that are in that theater, but they're creating energy. Some of the radionics devices don't even actually require electricity because we are riding on that wave of the theater. Now, I'm not saying that radionics is completely placebo. I don't have a lot of experience with radionics myself outside of Charles Cosimino or Uncle Chucky. So I'm not going to get a lot into the expertise of what all goes into the many different forms of radionics there are out there. And most of them are based in a healing work. But that theater of science and the placebo effect is at least part of that. It's part of any operation. Even when someone is given real antibiotics, there is the theater of science. There is that effect. The interesting thing about this placebo effect is it's not just in the belief. As I said a moment ago before I got distracted, it's the momentum of it, that repetition. The more often a pattern is repeated, the more powerful. Oh my gosh. I am messing up my own law. I am messing up the law of repetition here. For some reason, I mess it up every time. Every time a pattern is repeated, the momentum of its cycle increases. Okay, so that's what's going on here with the sugar pills outside of the belief. Because you can tell the person that they are being given a placebo. Explain to them what a placebo is. And even after they understand it, and even if they believe they are only given a sugar pill, there's still that momentum, that law of repetition in play that is pushing it forward, that is making momentum and making something happen, even outside of that one belief. Because yes, belief imparts reality, but it only imparts it. And with the placebo effect, some say that this faith healing of what the placebo effect is just the body convincing itself, a mind over matter. But whatever it is, there is a limit to it. We have found that, at least according to science, there is a limit to it, though they've done very little to push on that and find out just how far they can actually get. Like I say, for the most part, they have tried to eliminate it so that they can focus on just the laws that they are studying, the things that they quote-unquote know work and are verifiable. And placebo effect, well, it varies. It's not as verifiable, so they've tried to remove it. Now, instead of that, we are trying to push it forward. And the placebo effect is more than just the belief. It is the full theater of operation. So when we are working with weird science, we want to incorporate spellcraft into what we are doing, science into it, the aesthetics of science. Like I said, the lab coats. Maybe if you feel like you need to wear a stethoscope, because we're riding on that momentum. Now, what we are doing with weird science isn't just science. It is spellcraft. So we want to get ourselves into the state of gnosis of weird science. And whatever that means for you, to put yourself into that state of mind. I'm not talking about full-on gnosis here just yet, but there is a state of mind and a development of gnosis involved in working with weird science. Okay, now, I did mention earlier that if you got to the end of this episode, I would describe some of my own workings and a spell that I did and how it ended up in a fairly humorous manner. Okay, well, not humorous, I suppose, but either way, it didn't end well for me. So, this principle of the theater of science is one of the things that I used from the very beginning, especially, like I said, with transforming things through scientific principles and using chemicals to create results and riding on that wave. And I would use things to get things to change colors. That was one of my favorite things, to use chemical agents to cause a color change. And along with that color change is where I would ride the magic and hook the metaphor to. Okay, so this advances over time. In the 8th grade, this has very much gone to the idea of potions, but there's also other magic that I'm using outside of my chemicals. Either way, I got my pride very insulted by another member of the school. I'm not going to mention their name, but this was in the 8th grade, and there was someone that was in a couple of my classes. And they had insulted my pride and said that I could not cast magic, and had made me very upset about all this. So, in my pride, I decided that I was going to curse them to prove that I could do this. So, I went home, and I used chemicals, very specific chemicals that would cause stiffness of joints and pain, something like that, if you were to apply this to someone. And so I used very specific chemicals and welded it together with my lab coat that I had on at the time, and was very scientific, at least in the theater of how I did it, to create this potion. And then the potion was supposed to be applied to the target. But then I got a little extra creative, and I took it out to evaporate into the sky, with the intent that I would then do a rain dance to cause it to rain the next day. It would rain on this person, getting it on them, and that would be how I finished the spell. Since I didn't have any kind of sample. It's not like they were going to give me a lock of their hair. I had to have a way to get the spell from them, from where it was, onto them without a target sample. So this is the method that I chose. And this worked. I cast the spell with the potion, made the chemical process in my lab coat, welded the theater of science, and then put it out on a big tray, real thin, so that it would evaporate up into the clouds. And then I did a rain dance to get it back down. So there's a combination of magic and science going on here at the same time. And the rain dance did work. That wasn't where the problem came in. I go to school the next day. We caught the same bus. Anyways, I go to school the next day. I go to the bus stop, and there he is. He's got a raincoat on, an umbrella, rain slickers, the whole 9 yards. He doesn't get wet. I, however, got soaked. Now, at the time, I very much believed in this idea of return to sender. And so I convinced myself the spell was going to come back onto me immediately. So as soon as I got home, I started doing all this stuff to get it off of me. And that is probably where I actually messed up. The rest of this, it could have just not worked. It could have just, well, there's going to be something. But I allowed myself to be convinced it was coming back to me. So that's part of what drew it to me. And I did everything I could to get it off of me. And that's probably what pulled it on. But either way, the next morning, my own joints, as in my knees, swelled up. And I got really bad water on the knee. And had arthritis for a long time. In fact, my knees, now that I am in my 40s, are much better than my knees were in my 20s, when this was still going on. I found ways to get over it, and part of that is to accept what went wrong and realize that there is no curse on my knees except for the one that I believed was there. Because even though there was that theater of science and momentum, I still had to reconnect myself to that flow in order for it to affect me. But hopefully I've made the principle clear here that when we are using the theater of science in weird science, that is the aesthetics of it. It helps because we believe that science does things, and there is a mass belief in that, not just our own belief. And belief imparts reality and will help our spell along its way, or our magical experiment along its way. But then there's also the aesthetics of that, how it resonates with what we are doing. And then there is the repetition and momentum that goes in to the idea that science and scientific operations have an effect. And also, again, we want to remember to enter into that theater when we are working with weird science. And that includes the hypnosis. That there is the idea that it is scientific, that it is psychology. We want to accept that hypnosis isn't just make-believe. Yeah, it isn't a pseudoscience. You need to allow yourself into that flow. That hypnosis is within the theater of science. And it will work better for you once you accept that. Okay, so let's see. I think I have explained the concept the best that I can. I feel like there's a little bit more here that we're just going to have to expand on over time as we experiment with the weird science. So, let's see, at the risk of rambling, I would like to go over all this one more time just to make sure I haven't missed anything. So, weird science, then, the theater of science is the ritual around scientific operations. And we want to get into that ritual, enter that flow, that state of mind, when we are working with weird science. And the aesthetics that go along with it. Because this puts us into the frame of mind that we need for the energetic part of what we are doing. Okay. So that includes the lab coats, stethoscope, whatever it is you want, your science goggles. If you're doing anything where you're actually working with chemicals that are volatile, you probably have some goggles. Either way, whether you feel that they are aesthetically necessary or not, it's often a good idea. Because we are going to be talking about chemical reactions and things on this playlist eventually, and how to attach magical workings to chemical reactions, and hopefully we won't wind up with water on our knee from them. So, there's also the idea of pride to remember. There is the part of the moral of that other story, but the real moral of that story, at least to me, is to be mindful of what you are doing and make sure that when you put out energy, if it doesn't have where it's going to hit its target, have an idea of where it's going to go. Because I say that probably me believing it was going to come back to me had an effect. But when you've got that much momentum, it's going to go somewhere. So, anytime we are casting a spell where we are trying to get it on the target, if there's a way that that might not work out, have some kind of fail-safe, an idea of where it's going to land if it doesn't land on the target. Now when I do that sort of thing, I actually just set up essentially a backstop, which by that I mean just a piece of wood, a piece of organic material that I have put a sigil on or something to designate as what catches the spell if it goes past what it is aiming at or misses. Anyways, I think that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you once again for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to the don't forget to like the video. I keep thinking that I should say that at the beginning, but I think I'm pretty sure I forgot again. Actually, I know I did. Anyways, if you've listened to my ramblings this far, obviously you enjoyed it. Go ahead and like the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. Until next time, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.